Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of CavsHQ Happy Hour presented by Budweiser alongside the esteemed Rafa Hernandez-Brito. I'm merely John Michael. Great to have you with us. Well, Rafa, the Orlando bubble experiment has begun as this week players started to arrive in Orlando, and off we go. Let's see what happens.
Off we go. We finally got all the teams that are going to be participating in this playing 8 games and then the playoff. And I have hope, John, that everything is going to work, not only because I have trust in what Commissioner Silver and the league have been able to work and get ready for, but also one thing that we have to understand. The Raptors were able to have a bubble before the Orlando bubble, and they were able to keep it contained. They had no positives since they got to April. So that gives me a lot of hope that if everybody contributes to what the protocol that needs to be kept for safety, we might be able to finish this and see a champion crown this year.
Yeah, I agree. Fingers crossed this all works. And I'm with you. I mean, obviously there's going to be a few people that don't, that potentially won't honor, won't respect it, might go outside the bubble. But I think, like the commissioner said, you're going to be safer inside the bubble than you're outside the bubble, considering all the testing they're doing and everything else. So, again, hopefully the idea and the whole situation holds up long enough to get us through the rest of this regular season and then on into the playoffs. Regardless, I mean, I don't know if you looked at the schedule, Rafa. It's going to be exciting. I mean, there's wall-to-wall basketball basically every single day once the season begins.
We got a taste of it today, actually, because I was watching some MLS games at 10 a.m. in the morning where they were playing. So I thought about that, what we have been talking about here on the Happy Hour, how we're going to be able to watch basketball, especially for us not there, that even though we work in the basketball scene, we really don't get to watch full games to prepare for our games. I watch condensed versions, or I watch some games that just reading clips and everything. But now we get to sit and be fans and watch games, 4 or 5 games a day. And they're not really wasting any time with Lakers Clippers to get it going on reopening day.
Yeah, I can't wait. I think it's going to be fantastic. So earlier this week also, or maybe a little over a week ago, I guess, it was reported that there may be a Chicago bubble as well for the 8 teams that didn't get invited to Orlando. And we know, how the Cavs organization, what they're thinking is. They're thinking basically is the more time we can get together with this younger team, the better off we're going to be. And also, if we don't get a mini camp, if we don't get some kind of a time that we can spend meaningful minutes with this club together, it's going to set us back. So hopefully this is another step in the right direction for the Cavaliers.
For sure, and I think it's the youth movement that we're going through with the Cavs, the retooling that we're having, and the importance of the second year, the rookies coming in. In the case of Dylan Windler, who didn't get a chance to even step on a court during his first year in the league, I think it is important for that. The veterans, I think, are probably going to feel free of spending that little extra time that early in the offseason, but from what we have been hearing is the disadvantage for all these 8 teams that were not invited to Orlando to be basically inactive for 8 months, John. I mean, it is impossible to think that they're going to be at an even playing field when next season starts. So hopefully they're able to manage that. And again, the trust is on the commissioner's office and the league that they're going to be able to pull this off so these teams can at least get their young guys moving and playing some basketball.
Yeah, and I agree with you about the veterans. But that said, I think some of these veterans are itching just to play again. I mean, just to be in an environment where they can get some run, where they can play 5-on-5 basketball, where they can be among their teammates. I love the idea of a tournament. I think it's great. Again, hopefully they're able to pull it off. And I think the success of the Chicago bubble is going to depend a lot upon what they find out in the Orlando bubble. Whether it works, what parts of it work, and whether they can go from there. A couple of veterans in the news recently being picked up by NBA teams. Jamal Crawford goes to the Nets. Beasley goes to the Nets as well. And then how about J.R. Smith, of course, to the Lakers? We know the situation with the Nets. A number of players going to be out, not going to Orlando because of the virus. Of course, they're without Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant as well. But nice to see Crawford back in the NBA. His last game, by the way, he was in the NBA, was with Phoenix. He had a 51-point performance. We know what J.R. Smith can do when the lights are bright. So a couple of savvy vets back in the mix in the bubble.
It's amazing to think that Crawford was out of a job, being able to put in, Mike Williams is, from the Clippers, kind of similar game where whenever you give him the ball, he's going to be able to put the ball in the basket and get you some games. And then Beasley coming back as well. The need that of bodies that the Nets are finding themselves in, with all the people injured and either for personal reasons or for COVID-19 positive tests that they're gonna need to bring bodies in to go into the playoffs. They're one of the playoff teams right now in the Eastern Conference. And J.R. Smith, I think there's nobody in this world that cannot be happy and rooting for the guy for this shot he's gonna get again to go into the playoffs with the Lakers and with a chance to win another title and contribute.
So as those know who are fans of the show and who watch the show from time to time, it's not only basketball here on CavsHQ. We cover all sports in Northeast Ohio, and it's going to be nice to invite our featured guest to join us, give us a State of the Union for Cleveland baseball. Rafa, Jensen Lewis, kind enough to join us in our next segment. And whenever we see Jensen, it's that time of the year, isn't it? They're going to get back on the field. They're going to be playing some baseball. I'm thrilled they're playing baseball at all this season, not only because of the COVID threat, but also because obviously the unrest between owners and players and everything else. I was worried they might not get back on the field at all. They're practicing, and Jensen Lewis is going to tell us all about it.
And it's going to be a very different season, John, with the 60-game season, some new rules that we will talk to Jensen about. So it'll be interesting to see, and I can't wait. Again, baseball, I think, is one of my favorite sports to watch as a fan, and I can't wait to get this 60-season game going. And it'll be like opening day for baseball and basketball, like back-to-back at the end of this month.
Isn't it strange? I mean, we know how much live sports we watch, but then it's gone, and then you really realize how much live sports we watch on a daily basis. Even though we work in sports, still watching everything else.
You know how much I need sports? I've been watching replays of all Tour de France stages.
That's worse than your Olympic Channel. the Olympic Channel addiction that you had earlier in the pandemic.
Oh my God, that's the best channel this whole pandemic.
Without any further ado, let's invite in our featured guest. It is Jensen Lewis. And here he is, our featured guest, co-host of Indians Live, Jensen Lewis. Jensen, I got to tell you, I am so happy to see you. I'm so happy to see baseball back on the field. It's about that time. Here we go again.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's great to see you and Rafa. And, unfortunately, with how everything has played out, it was great to see you guys. And then everything happens with the pandemic. And it's just nice to have a date finally. I think the unknown was always the thing we were worried about, is give us a date. It kind of allows us to plan some things out. So July 24th, we know where we're going to start, and fingers crossed everyone's healthy and we can get to that point.
Yeah, we haven't known what to have on TV in the house at all over the summer. I mean, that's all we have is you guys on TV. So finally we're going to get that taken care of. Were you fearful at all, Jensen, the way things have played out, that you might not have been on the field at all this year?
There's definitely a worry of that. And, I was formerly a player rep when I was with the Indians for a couple of years. So I'm well aware of how those negotiations really transpire. And it's never fun. It's never, something that's going to look great in the public eye. But I think there was always a point where we knew we were going to have baseball. We didn't know how many games, but we knew we were going to have a season. The only thing that really could have derailed us was if there was a massive spike or there was a lot of guys getting sick. And if that happened, in good faith, there's no way the league could have moved forward. But I think we always believed that we were going to have a season. It's going to be intriguing, though, John Michael. When you think about how 60 games in the grand scheme of a baseball season is literally a time where you figure out what your team is like and then make adjustments from there. Now you're going to have to figure that out in 20 games. You're going to have to really understand within 3 weeks, what does my team do well? What does my team not do well? And hope. This, I think, is going to be the big irony this season. There's no minor league season. So the Indians have been an organization that has really, really relied on their youth coming up and reinforcements from the minor league level. How will that play out, not only with this organization, but around the league? I think that's a big storyline coming into 2020.
Jensen, you mentioned the shorter season, 60 games, and obviously when you talk about that, there have to be places where there are teams that might have an advantage, maybe the teams with a solid bullpen, or the team with guys that come up and take advantage of the opportunity with the extended rosters. What do you think would be the advantage for the team to make it to the playoffs, and where do the Indians fall within those advantages?
Yeah, Rafa, I think the big thing for the Indians was knowing if we had started the season on time, you were probably going to be without the services of a Mike Clevenger and a Carlos Carrasco, maybe for the first or second time through the rotation. And I know people will say, okay, well, that's only one or two starts. Well, as we saw last year, a week or two can make all the difference for a team, especially in the standings. That will be magnified now because you've had the opportunity for guys like Clev and Cookie to get healthy, and also guys like Tyler Naquin too, who was on the fast track anyway. He was ahead on his rehab schedule. He's going to have the opportunity to really be able to flourish right out of the gate. And I believe the Indians are one of those teams, as you kind of alluded to, that benefits from this time off. Everyone is back healthy. Everyone looks good. And that in turn is going to allow the Indians, I think, to hit the ground running.
So the approach, of course, in MLB has been different from that in the NBA. So the NBA is going with the bubble in Orlando, players starting to arrive this week. The Indians were back on the field, progressive field, getting loose inter-squad scrimmages earlier this week as well. Original results of the tests came back around 6,000 tests. My understanding was 66 players, 10 staff so far. So the numbers overall, considering everything, pretty good for MLB. What's your level of confidence, Jensen, that they're going to be able to do this? They're going to be able to pull this off because they're not doing the bubble. They're still traveling. I mean, again, they're staying within the AL Central, the NL Central, a little bit different, but it's not the approach the NBA has been taking. What are your thoughts as we get it going?
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, John, because this is a case study in multiple different sports. With the NHL having the two hub cities, knowing the NBA is going to be in one central location there in Orlando. I think what MLB has really shown early as far as the testing goes is that a lot of guys were really, really proactive in trying to limit their exposure. And that's going to be really the thing here. I think we all understand there's going to be positive tests along the way. It's just a matter of, can guys really be responsible? And I know that as a young player, you're going to want to get out and do things of your normal routine. That's probably not going to be allowed on the road this year. And to be able to understand that you might be eating room service, for 30, 35 days out of these 2 months. But I think Terry Francona does such a great job of really bringing the focus back and really let guys know on day one. We got two options here. We can kind of whine and be upset about the circumstances, or we can take this as an opportunity to really move forward and really be able to, in a short sample here, really put together a special season. Because in the record books, John, there's going to be a champion at the end of the year. And it doesn't matter how many games you played. They're crowning him. You're getting the trophy. You're getting a ring. And any player who plays this game, that's what you play for. I think the weird thing is going to be no fans in the stands. I asked Brad Hand the other day, when's the last time that you played in a stadium in a professional setting where there wasn't anybody there? And he had to think a little bit and go back, I think, to Florida State in the Florida State League. And that's a low A, high A situation where you just have your parents, maybe your girlfriend there, and that's it. And you're playing in scorching heat. It's not fun. But that's where these guys, I think, are going to have to really find a sense of urgency. You're going to have the natural rivalries with the Twins and the Reds, and knowing that National League Central schedule is going to be really brutal as far as the Cubs and the Cardinals go. I don't think you can write off the Brewers at all. That's a really good bullpenning team. That lineup now with the DH, they're going to be a little bit deeper. The Pirates are rebuilding. And then with what the White Sox were able to do this offseason, the Central is going to be competitive. And every team is in it. I think that's the beauty of this 60-game schedule. Not one team is out of it. And we've seen in baseball in April and May when teams get off to a really torrid start, whoever does that is going to the postseason. And that's the way it's going to be. So you can see some crazy things happen here, but every game will mean something this time around.
Speaking of Tito, which I think is one of the advantages that the Indians have to have such a great leader in Tito Francona, we could probably say, Jensen, that the Indians' infield is probably set on what starting situations would be. But when you get to the outfield, you mentioned Naquin, you have Luplo, who had really good games last year. You have Reyes, which I love, by the way, I love his nickname in Spanish, La Mole, sounds so much better than the thing. But you have the line of the Shields, who's also almost ready to come back. How do you think Tito is going to handle all this crowd in the outfield? And Mercado, who probably is the only one that has you could probably pencil in as a starter now. But there's a lot of guys that are going to have to really show what they can do quick in order to get some at-bats.
Yeah, and I think, Rafa, a couple of the rule changes are maybe going to clear some things up for Terry Francona, his lineup. We know that Franmil was working this offseason on his outfield play, on his defense, knowing that in interleague he was likely going to have to play out there with no designated hitter. Now, that changes this year because of the universal DH, so the Indians won't have to worry about figuring out that configuration. I still believe that with how Terry really values defense, I think Franmil sees the bulk of the time at designated hitter. I don't think he's going to worry about that, especially with expanded rosters here too now. You're going to have 30 active players when this season gets underway. So that allows Tito some bench options, specifically coming off the bench and knowing that you're going to have defensive replacements, a lot of pinch hitting opportunities. I think as the outfield sits right now, and again, this is just as of this show, I think Mercado is obviously a guy that is going to be in there in center field. I think you can get creative in the corner spots. Remember, Domingo Santana is going to be in there as a pretty good right-handed bat. A lot of power there. Depending on the matchups, he'll be an interesting guy to watch defensively if he's going to be in left. I think with Luplow against left-handed pitching, he absolutely raked last year, so it's hard not to allow him the opportunities there. Tyler Naquin, if you guys remember before the injury, was really, really gaining a lot of confidence in that 9-hole. He was really being able to turn the lineup over, and that's not lost on Terry Francona. He remembers that, and I think he also knows that when you got a bazooka for an arm out there in right field, that's going to be able to shut down the running game, guys trying to score from second base. So the outfield, I think, is going to be kind of a work in progress, and with the opponents that you look at on the schedule, because, again, we are at a reduced schedule now. You think about facing the Royals, you're going to have a Danny Duffy as a left-hander. When you face the White Sox with Dallas Keuchel now, there's Gio Gonzalez. I mean, there's going to be opportunities, I think, for Luplow to be in there, and he's earned it. When you do what you do against left-handed pitching, that's where Terry Francona likes to slot guys. But I would assume if Tyler Naquin is healthy and he shows that he's going to be able to hit that ground running, I think he's a guy that gets a lot of playing time.
You mentioned some of the rule changes, and this is one that we've discussed on this show a number of times. 3-batter minimum that comes into play this season. Something that when it was proposed, Rafa and I both said, "Oh my, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life." Yeah, I know they want to speed this game up, but this is too wild for my blood. Maybe I'm more of a traditionalist, but in terms of how that affects what Tito does with the bullpen, I mean, does it mean guys come on to finish innings more often potentially, Jensen? And then they'll take the other batters at the beginning of the next inning. How will it affect what Tito does with that pen this season?
It's a great point, John, and it's going to fundamentally change how a lot of managers go about their late inning scenarios. And knowing that how the Indians bullpen was constructed, if you just take last year, for instance, we know that Adam Simber and Oliver Perez are two guys that stand out that were really a hitter or maybe two to clean up an inning or to get out of an inning and maybe start in a situation where you had a big hitter that was leading off an inning and you wanted to neutralize that. I retired too early, guys. I could go back and do the 3-batter minimum now because that's part of the rules. But yeah, I like it to a certain extent. But as far as speeding up the game, we're kind of reinventing the wheel here. I mean, it really changes how games are going to be won and lost. For instance, and I know this has been talked about, if you're a pitcher and you come in and you walk the first 2 guys, it is utterly apparent that you probably don't have it that day. So now you're going to penalize the team by saying, you got to face one more guy. I think we'll see a lot of situations where managers get upset, and there'll be some complaints about it. I don't feel this is a rule that's going to last. It may last through next year just because the collective bargaining agreement is up in 2021. But I firmly believe this fundamentally changes how games are won and lost for this season.
But speaking of rule changes, what about the extra inning rule?
Rafa,
about managing the game and the expanded rule, the expanded roster, you got to have a guy that's really fast on the bases if you're going to start on second base, right?
Yeah, and that'll be fascinating to see how that all plays out because as a pitcher, it changes certainly with runners in scoring position and especially with less than 2 outs, how you attack guys. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see, for instance, guys intentionally walk, someone to set up a double play, and be able to get a ground ball and get a couple of quick outs, because now all of a sudden you've got the ability, yes, to score quickly, but I think you're going to try and see managers take the bat out of some guys' hands. That to me is something that just pops out in my mind right away. Is if you got a speedy guy, and maybe you're looking at American League teams that just want to try and end it with one swing, you're going to take the bat out of the hand of that guy that's right up there and say, all right, I'm not going to let the likes of Aaron Judge or Mike Trout beat me. It's going to have to be whoever's behind them, and then you'll take your chances.
It's almost like we have a million different things we want to talk to you about, Jensen, because there's so many fascinating aspects coming into the season, because it's different, because the Indians are in a different situation. The name of the team itself, Indians, it may not be Indians for much longer, considering everything that's taken place recently. But, we talked about Terry Francona, and boy, it seems that everything that comes out of his mouth is just from the heart and is authentic and seems to be right on, right on track, doesn't it? And I think it was the same when he talked about the potential name change as well.
Yeah, and I love his fervor. Every time we show up to the ballpark, we want to kick someone's rear end, and that's what you want to have in a manager. And I think he gets it. I think he understands the uniqueness of this season. I think he also has a good pulse on everything within his team and also that's going on around the league. I mean, you talk about the proposed name change, and I know there's a lot of people that have such a connection, not only to the Indians but the Cavaliers and the Browns. I mean, I grew up, wanting to put on that jersey. I was fortunate enough to be able to represent that team and that community, and it's something I'll never ever forget. I appreciated the opportunities to do that. There's no foregone conclusion this is going to happen. I can appreciate where the organization wants to have a conversation about it, and that's fair. It really is. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but in light of everything we've kind of seen, I think it's fair to get a lot of perspectives and allow people to really say what they want and allow the organization then to make a choice from there. But you hear what Terry has to say, you hear what Frankie Lindor and Pletko and all these guys, everyone has an opinion on it. And this country is unique in the fact that we really enjoy having those dueling opinions, those dueling perspectives. It should be embraced. It doesn't mean that a decision is going to come down and say, okay, we're going to change the name or not. But having the conversation about it, I think is fair, and we'll wait and see what the organization wants to do from there.
Has everybody forgotten what the Astros and the Red Sox went through at the end of last season with all this pandemic and the delay and the negotiation and the fact that the Yankees also were in there involved? It's amazing how nobody's even talking about banging on the trash cans and all the sign stealing that went on and with those teams now, huh?
Yeah, Rafa, with no fans in the stands, it's going to be very apparent with those Astros banging on trash cans. They're not going to be able to hide that this year. But no, in talking with guys, that's not been lost. I think what changes now is obviously the geographical schedule prohibits, the likes of the Indians or other teams that face the Astros in past postseasons to, quote unquote, get some sort of revenge. I think it'll be fascinating to watch the Astros and Dodgers series, because the AL and the NL West will play each other. That's going to be must-see TV. The Red Sox in the same fashion. No one has forgotten that. Within baseball circles, and we as ball players have been really renowned for policing ourselves. I firmly believe that there will be some sort of action taken on the field. We're good about, I guess, taking it to the line, pushing the envelope so that, I was trying to throw a fastball inside. I think there might be some guys that take matters into their own hands. That is, when you cost someone the opportunity to win a world championship, it is so hard to get there, let alone win one. I don't think that's lost, especially on the opponents that will get their first licks, so to say, at these teams. And I think the Astros and the Red Sox better be ready from day one because – where a game means everything, if there's opportunities to be had, I won't be surprised if guys take advantage.
I mean, it's well documented. It cost guys their jobs. I mean, This is widespread. I mean, what took place, I don't know about you, Jensen, but I just watched a couple of games on MLB Network, replays of the Astros. The emotion that overtook me was anger. It was just mad. I was looking at that bat saying, there's no way that guy hits that ball. There's no way that guy hits a Scherzer fastball up at his neck, unless he knows unless exactly what was coming. I don't know. It was an anger to me. How about you as a former pitcher?
No question about it. I get asked the question, would you, and I played in the steroid era right at the tail end of it. I would much rather face a guy that, again, it's no guarantee you're going to hit a home run. It's no guarantee you're going to throw 100 miles an hour by doing those performance enhancing things. You still have to hit it. You still have to throw it. And the unique part about our game as hitters, when you know what's coming, that can completely alter the approach to an at bat. You really, for lack of a better term, undress the pitcher, because there's no hiding anything now. There's no mystery. And to your point about losing a job, I mean, how many guys, and you'd have to go back and look at it, how many call-ups, came up and faced, these hitters and were there for auditions, you try so hard to get to the big leagues, let alone stay there for as long as you possibly can. And some of these guys will never get an opportunity again because of the cheating that went on. There is no guarantee in our game about how long you can be there, how long you can maintain that major league status. But to physically have an advantage that way, instead of, the comparison to the steroid era, 10 out of 10 times, John and Rafa, I would rather face someone who's on those performance enhancing drugs, because I still have the ability to get you out. I mean, the numbers say it. 7 out of 10 times I'm gonna beat you as a pitcher to a hitter. But those numbers fundamentally change when you understand what I'm featuring and what I'm coming with, pitch in and pitch out. That is unforgivable in so many ways.
Unless your name is Mariano Rivera.
That's right. That's the only guy.
Listen, before we let you go, because I know John probably want to go and jump in the pool now, but is there a chance that next season of Beer Money you can invite John and I to see how we do? I mean, see who comes out with more money out of there?
I would love it. We need a celebrity edition of Beer Money. Maybe
just took us out of the gate.
then you're coming to the wrong place. It wouldn't be a celebrity edition.
Well, I'll send that right up. I'll send that right up the ladder to Tom Farmer or Randy Stevens. I think they'll buy it. I think they'll go for it.
There you go. I mean, we're ready.
I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, Jensen, it's always great catching up. Friend of the show. You and Al do such a great job on Cavaliers Live, on Indians Live. And we're looking forward to another season, albeit abbreviated. But, man, you said it each and every night. They're playing for something, 60-game season. It's going to be special. Have another great year, my friend.
Thank you. We love, having your guys' support. It's fun to watch you guys in our off season. And I know this is one season we will cherish because – whether it was 60 games, whether it was 162 games, I think we just feel blessed that we've got an opportunity to be back, and we appreciate your support. Every Cleveland fan, in Northeast Ohio, around the country that watches us, we are so thrilled to be back and can't wait for that first pregame show on July 24th.
Great stuff, Jensen. Thanks so much. For Jensen Lewis, for Rafa, I'm John. So long, everybody. See you next time on CavsHQ Happy Hour, presented by Budweiser.